What is going on, guys? It is WrestleMania here, back with another video. Fans have seen some heinous acts in the ring, ranging from wrestlers burying opponents alive, setting them on fire, and running them over with everything from cars to tractor trailers. However, wrestlers have been involved in some real-life villainy as well. Here are 10 of the most serious crimes committed by wrestlers. And just to note, we're gonna skip Chris Benoit and Jose Gonzales, as we've covered both in the Behind the Titantron series. Number 1. Booker T. Young Booker Huffman worked at Wendy's restaurants before deciding to rob them, using one of Wendy's uniforms he'd kept. In 1987, Booker pleaded guilty to 2 counts of armed robbery and was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Booker would serve about a third of the time due to good behavior, putting his mistakes behind him and embarking on a much more lucrative career as a member of the tag team Harlem Heat. This was then followed by a singles run as the 5-time WCW World Champion, multiple-time WWE Champion, and King of the Ring. Number 2 and 3, Ken Patera and Mr. Sato. Heel wrestlers found themselves in hot water when they were accused of throwing a rock through a McDonald's window because they were denied service. The police showed up at the hotel, and in the ensuing scuffle, over a dozen officers were called to the scene, resulting in sheer mayhem. However, in an interview on Ric Flair's podcast, Patera claims that he did not throw the rock through the window, and that Mr. Sato was not even with him. Patera recalls 2 cops showed up at his hotel room and a female cop, who proceeded to mace Sato only for Sato to duck and Patera to catch the mace in the eyes. According to Patera, the female cop lied about the incident, alleging he rammed her head into a wall. Patera says if he hit the female cop, he would have killed her with one blow. Eventually, over a dozen state troopers showed up and the 2 wrestlers were taken into custody. Despite AWA promoter Vern Gagne sending a US senator to plead on their behalf, the podunk town that Patera and Sato were tried in supposedly had a bias against wrestlers, hence the kangaroo court and subsequent sentence of 2 years imprisonment. Patera has stated in interviews that the case was blown out of proportion. In an interview with WWE.com, the Olympic strongman said the whole thing was bogus. It was unnecessary. I hired another law firm for an appeal. Patera told WWE.com, "Do you know what they said? It was a travesty of justice. There was no need for me to go into prison for this. I should have gotten a $350 fine." Upon Patera's return to the WWF, the company incorporated his incarceration into a storyline that saw Patera turn babyface, claiming former manager Bobby Heenan abandoned him during his time in the Big House. Number 4. Scott Steiner. Big Papa Pump's temper is well known, whether it's his unscripted rant on Ric Flair during an episode on Monday Night Nitro, or his backstage brawl with Diamond Dallas Page that nearly saw Steiner pluck out Page's eye. Whether it was roid rage, a faulty brain circuit, or a case of misunderstanding, Steiner was involved in an incident in April 1998 where he attacked a Department of Transportation worker after he was told an exit ramp was closed. Steiner pled guilty to aggravated assault and making a terroristic threat, charges which reportedly could have landed him in prison for 30 years. Instead, Steiner was ordered to pay a fine of $25,000, serve 10 days in jail, and serve 7 years on probation. Steiner's attorney of course painted a different picture of the genetic freak than wrestling fans know. He told Judge C. Michael Roach that Rex Steiner is gentle and well educated. "I have seen a man that is very different to his public persona." Number 5. Nathan Jones. Former Australian WWE superstar Nathan Jones went from strong arm robbery to strongman, serving 7 years in an Australian maximum security prison for a series of 8 robberies that saw him become one of Australia's most wanted criminals. Jones began powerlifting in prison and entered various strongman contests, eventually winning several before competing in MMA, doing bodyguard work, and even making film appearances. Given Jones' history in the slammer, the WWE could have used him instead of Heidenreich for the infamous Michael Cole incident. Number 6. Art Barr. The man who would take the title character from the film Beetlejuice and make him into a popular wrestling character in Pacific Northwest Territory found himself haunted by a 1989 rape charge. Barr was accused of raping a 19-year-old woman in a stairwell at an empty arena in Oregon. A year later, Barr pled guilty to sexual abuse and was sentenced to a $1,000 fine, restitution for the victim's medical bills, 2 years probation, and 180 hours of community service with youth organizations. Reporter Margie Bull wrote a number of scathing columns about the incident, and when Barr went to work in WCW, someone anonymously faxed the columns to WCW. Barr would be let go, but then found incredible success in Mexico, working as the Love Machine. According to a 1999 Slam Sports story, at the time of his death, Art Barr was the top draw in Mexico and was generally regarded as the best heel in wrestling. However, Barr fell into a trap of alcohol and drugs, and on the 23rd of November 1994, Barr was found dead at the age of 28. Number 7. Lex Luger. The total package found out the hard way that he didn't have it all after he was involved in a domestic abuse incident with Elizabeth Hulett, aka Miss Elizabeth, in April of 2003. Days later, Luger would be charged with DUI while driving Elizabeth, and less than a month later, Elizabeth would be found dead in Luger's home due to a drug overdose. Luger's woes continued when the police found a supply of drugs in his home, normally found at your neighborhood pharmacy. Luger admits his lifestyle contributed to Elizabeth's death. In a 2007 ESPN interview, "I took a lot of responsibility for that. My influence in her life, her little heart and body couldn't take what I was doing." Although Elizabeth's death was ruled as accidental, Luger was sentenced to a $1,000 fine and 5 years probation for drug possession charges. A subsequent prohibition violation saw Luger sentenced to 4 months in jail. As we discussed in a recent video, Luger appears to have turned his life around. Number 8. Blackjack Mulligan. Wrestler Blackjack Mulligan, aka Bob Windham, was known for his wild image, but things crossed the line in 1990 when Blackjack and son Kendall were arrested for counterfeiting. The Secret Service and Florida Department of Law Enforcement reportedly found $500,000 in counterfeit money. Rumor has it that Mulligan was having financial problems after a change in the tax law voided exemptions he'd been taking on properties he owned. The Windhams ended up taking a father and son trip to federal prison for 24 months. Number 9. Scott Hall. Scott Hall has struggled with personal demons, resulting in numerous arrests on charges such as domestic abuse, DUI, and assault. Hall reportedly served 10 days in 2011 after an incident involving alcohol and violence at a Florida bar. It appears that Hall's personal demons could stem from post-traumatic stress disorder due to an incident in 1983 when Hall killed a man in self-defense. He was outside a nightclub in Orlando, Florida when a man pulled a gun on Hall. Hall took the gun away and shot the man to death. Hall was charged with second-degree murder but acquitted on self-defense. Nevertheless, Hall claims this incident is still with him today. And number 10. Kerry Von Erich. Wrestler Kerry Von Erich was blessed with talent and charisma, but plagued by personal demons. While on probation, Von Erich was charged with a drug crime which could have carried a lengthy prison sentence. With an uncertain future, Kerry Von Erich chose to end his life, shooting himself in the heart. Well guys, there you have it, 10 wrestlers who committed 10 serious crimes. We know that there are plenty more, so write down in the comments below on whether you'd like a part 2. Be sure to leave a like if you did like the video, or a dislike if you didn't, subscribe if you already haven't, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.